the thought out there is time is of the essence when you're doing a civil settlement. You never know what's going to change, who's going to walk away from the potential deal. So, I get that. But typically, you don't see this happening. And so the question is why? A lot of people are looking at our mayor here, Jacob Fry, and the city council and what their motives could have been. Folks are looking at the family's attorneys as well, Ben Crump and company. And I think about the family because my assumption is that if you're the family of George Floyd and you were part of that civil suit, of course, you're going to want to see justice carried out. And maybe justice includes the city paying for its part in this terrible tragedy. But I think they probably feel justice also includes Derek Chauvin being held accountable for what he did. And so, without knowing anything about those settlement negotiations, my question mark is, did the family fully understand? Were they fully informed about the way that settlement announcement could interact with this trial? And if they weren't, somebody needs to take responsibility for that. Now, it looks like, fortunately, Professor Hunter, that is not going to affect the trial in terms of trial proceedings. There was a motion, or in other words, a request from Derek Chauvin's attorney, Eric Nelson, to delay the trial, to change venue, so essentially move the trial to another county in Minnesota. There was a lot of bluster on his part, and any defense attorney would have done that, to be frank, that we need to uproot this proceeding because my client cannot have a fair trial in light of this announcement. So, he did the whole drama of that. Last week, the Judge Cahill, essentially said, it won't make a difference where we try this case, when we try this case. It is a case that is of global import. There's a lot of pretrial publicity. Even though that settlement announcement has made an impact, we're not going to change the trial proceedings. But, Professor Hunter, I will leave on this caveat. To the extent Derek Chauvin is convicted of anything in this trial, please believe, rest assured, he will appeal. And that appeal is going to reference this entire thing. It's going to reference the fact that this settlement announcement came out and tainted the jury pool. That will be part of the appeal. So I just want to put that out there.
And Angie's here. Dr. Angie Porter. You can follow her at Angie, ANGI, Marissa, MARYSSA, Mary SSA on the Twitters. 2 jurors were excused.
Yeah.
That were seated.
Yeah.
When does that happen? And why did that happen?
Yeah. So that was part of that defense theory that, hey, now this announcement is out, it's tainted the jury pool. So the defense requested that the court go back and voir dire or re-question the juries that were already seated. So at that point, there were 9 jurors already seated. And, I know exactly the numbers. I've been following this very closely. So I was like, ooh, don't come for 52, because that's the one I like. So they actually went back through some of those jurors who were put on the jury before the settlement announcement. And 2 of them basically said, now that was announced, I can't be fair and impartial. I mean, they said very close to those words, I am no longer impartial. I feel like the city announced that, so Derek Chauvin must be wrong because that was a large settlement amount. And they struck them.
So what was the makeup of the 2 that were struck?
I think the 2 that were struck were white men.
Oh.
They were not the non-white jurors.
It was not number 52. It wasn't number 52.
It wasn't number 52. He's dead.
Okay.
We're good.
All right. So where are we now with the jury, and where are we now with the beginning of this trial?
So right when I came in here to get ready to talk to you, Professor Hunter, they had just finished with 1 juror who was struck. They're looking for 1 more juror right now. Proceedings are back in effect as we're speaking. So who knows if they've chosen that juror in the last, it would have been in the last 15 minutes or so. Doubtful. It takes a little while. It takes about 30 minutes for them to really question each juror. So we're looking for one more. There are currently 14 seated. The jury will include 12 people, but initially they wanted 2 alternates. So who are the alternates? People who can replace another juror if they become unavailable before deliberations start. It's a 4-week trial, so that's a very real concern. A lot of things can happen where a juror might become unavailable. On Friday last week, Judge Cahill seemed to indicate that they wanted more than 2 alternates. I think they're going for 3 alternates now. That's why they're looking for one more. But I can tell you generally, the alternates are the last few that are added. So the 2 presumptive alternates right now are white women. The jury proper, so the first 12 are 6 white jurors and 6 non-white jurors, which anecdotally,
Wow.
I can tell you, this is probably the most diverse jury I've seen.
I was gonna say, I don't think I've ever seen. I don't think I've seen that in a trial, because the OJ trial, they moved that venue, right? Because these off. I mean, not OJ. Who's the guy that got beat up? Oh my goodness, Rodney King. Thank you, Rodney King. Rodney King. They moved that so that the officers could get a fair trial, and of course they were acquitted. They're not moving this.
No.
The OJ trial was diverse. And I was laughing at so many Black women, but it wasn't 50-50, 6-6.
Right. Yes, and we should come back to that and how that's a little different and why there's a disadvantage here. But yes, 6-6 of the 6 non-white jurors, there's 2 multiracial women, 3 Black men, and 1 Black woman. Now, what are their ideologies? That's a separate question. And we sort of touched on that last week. We don't, these are not people with strong opinions. These are people that both sides like in some way. So that tells you a lot. But I'll say, going back to the OJ trial, they were trying to convict OJ in that trial, the prosecution. Here, they're trying to convict a white police officer. So in the OJ trial, the fact that they had Black jurors worked to OJ's benefit, because all it takes is one holdout for there to be a mistrial, or they can sway the jury and not convict. Same for Chauvin. All it takes is one juror for there to be a mistrial here. Now, a mistrial means you can retry the case, but
right. That happened in the Walter Scott case. There was a white man that said I would never convict the officer of shooting a Black man in the back. Not guilty. He is not guilty.
I love your impersonation.
That's how I imagine, because it was just ridiculous. So, but they retried him and he was convicted, right?
Yeah.
This, you're saying one holdout either way, right?
Right. Either way.
Could mean a retrial. Or can the judge step in at that point? Is there another recourse?
So what the judge can do is sort of, if it's going on for a long time, deliberations, the judge can kind of press and say, what's going on? We need a result. And if it's really dragging on, there can kind of be, deadlines to push the jury to say, are you deadlocked or are you going to come to a decision?
All right.
That's about it, though.